everybody. A very warm welcome to Cultural Communication Confidence with me, Victoria Reynoldson. And I'm really excited to welcome to the show Tara LaFon Gooch, joining us all the way from the US. And I'm really excited to have her on the show because she is somebody who knows all about confidence. And I know I get asked about this a lot to do with communication, to do with leadership. So I'm really excited to hear about Tara's perspectives on this. So, Tara, a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Victoria.
Oh, well, I've been meaning to have you on the show for a very long time. I'm so excited to have this conversation. And first of all, could you introduce yourself and share with the listeners more about what you do with confidence?
Absolutely. So my name's Tara LaFon Gooch. I'm the CEO of Best Branding Solutions. I'm also a TEDx speaker, podcast host, just like yourself, and author. I have another book on the way that will be launching in 2026. I'll never stop writing. That's a whole different podcast. Um, and the work I do with confidence, confidence is a passion point for me. It's a point of purpose. It's something that I feel like when we unlock, it unlocks our best potential and our highest self. And the reason is because for so much of my life, I was chasing success, but I realized it was a byproduct of building confidence. So that's why confidence is so important to me.
Oh, very, very interesting. That was going to be one of my questions. Like, how did you come to this work? So, were you always in this field or how did you come to it?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? It's a journey just like everything else. When I left my career, my previous career, which feels like another lifetime ago, and went into entrepreneurship full time, it was something that, this confidence, what is it? It was a deeper question for me than just I want to get confident because I just felt like almost like it was an elusive trait that I just couldn't quite grasp, right? And I knew that in order for me to have great conversations with people, in order for people to trust me, in order for me to be able to trust myself, I needed to have more confidence. Because the interesting thing is, when we have increased levels of confidence, people perceive it as increased competence within us. And what does that do? It creates trust. And that flows into success, as we were mentioning earlier. So it was something that was at one point in time was elusive for me that I wanted but didn't know how to reach. And through, we'll call it a journey, personal development, right? I started to become more confident and it changed my life.
Wow. And I really can imagine that many listeners are connecting to that idea of confidence being elusive, not
Mm.
easy to reach. I think, when I think about the conversations I have with people, they often talk about others are more confident than me, or, they talk about, it's those people over there who are confident, but I can't seem to quite reach that point. So, for those people who are listening, what is it you want to say to them about this idea of confidence? Well, is it for everybody? Or is it something you just happen to be born with and it's natural to you?
I think confidence is something that we can all achieve. And if it feels like when you walk into a room and you look at other people and you say, that must be nice to be that confident. Why can't I achieve this? Well, you're already on your journey to developing. You may look at it as I have a deficit, but I look at it as a becoming. And if you can recognize that somebody else has something that you feel belongs to you, that means it's meant for you as well. So confidence can absolutely happen for anyone. And it's attainable, right? I think that certain environments create more confidence. If you're in maybe like a toxic work environment, it might be harder for you to sustain a level of confidence if you're in a bad relationship, right? That might also bring down your confidence. If you're feeling a certain way, it could increase or decrease your confidence. The thing about confidence is that you can absolutely gain it, but it is almost like a meter. Like confidence is never just like success, always on 100% mode all the time. It kind of ebbs and flows a little bit depending on the situations you're in. But you can develop a sustained confidence. And, it's part habits, it's part mindset, it's part environment, like we talked about, it's part relationships. And when you develop a sustained confidence, even if you get a hit, even if you have a failure, even if you have an obstacle or an adversity, it doesn't take your confidence down for very long. You can always
Mm.
climb back up very easily.
I really love how you talked about it being sustainable or sustained, because actually that's quite an interesting thought. And I definitely recognize this idea of confidence. You said ebbing and flowing, so going up and down. But actually having the mechanisms in place and habits to sustain it, I can imagine that's incredibly powerful. And for me, what's interesting from what you said also previously is that it's not just about what you're projecting to others, but it's also about how you're feeling about yourself. You talked about the trust factor, right? So self-trust as well as how you build trust with others. Can you talk about that? Because people often think about, I think, confidence as being what they're projecting externally outwards, right?
Absolutely. And there's a saying in leadership, you can't lead a team of many before you lead a team of one, before you learn that self-mastery. And that comes back to trust. So it's a self-leadership. And for me, it starts with gratitude. And a lot of people may not equate gratitude and confidence together as something that can build off of each other. And there would have been a time when I would have thought the same. What do these have to do? How are they related? Well, if we think about so many people in modern life, we're either living in our minds in the past where we're regretting, where we're living in a place of, why didn't I do this? Or I should have done that. Or I can't believe this happened to me. Or we're living in a place of the future events, of what's going to happen here tomorrow, or what about this, that, and the other. And we're rarely tied and tethered to the present. And we know that the present is where our power really resides, right? We can't control the past, and the future's not yet determined, but what we do have control of is this present moment. And in leadership and in communication, it's the same way. How effective are you going to be in a conversation if you're thinking about the past or the future? You're going to be distracted and you're not going to have a depth of hearing what that other person is actually saying to you. And you're not going to be an effective communicator. You're not going to portray yourself as confident because you're here or there, not here. So gratitude comes in because it does tie you to the present moment. And for me, what I teach is that gratitude can actually be taught in layers. We can have gratitude for the past, for even the adversities, the things that have happened to us, problems that have arisen, right, in life or business, because ultimately they made us who we are today, which is probably a resilient person, a strong person, a powerful person, right? And it's finding the strength, the beauty in the adversities and not being tied to them like a chain, but actually embracing them with love. And then if we can have gratitude then for who we are becoming as a leader, as a person, as someone with infinite potential, we'll start to manifest the future we actually want while still being anchored to the present. And it's a beautiful relationship. It's gratitude is very transformative. And there's a lot of science around this as well. neuroscience that gratitude can rewire our brain's pathways, create new connections, form new synapses, and rewire our brains. And if we can rewire our brains, we can form new beliefs. And if you can form new beliefs, you can become confident, even if you feel like you have a deficit now. So it starts from that rewiring of developing something that maybe you don't quite feel like you have. Our brains are a phenomenal machines. They're computers. They can be rewired and reprogrammed. And if you can rewire and reprogram your brain, you can become the person, the leader that you want to be.
Wow, that is so powerful. I was listening so carefully to what you were saying because this idea of gratitude as the foundation of confidence,
Yeah.
that's probably quite a new concept for people. And so I liked how you layered it as well, thinking about gratitude for the past, but also for who you're becoming. I think that's a very powerful idea as well. And I know this is part of your grasp method, like your approach. So I have one of your books here. I have How to
Thank you.
Grasp Confidence. For those of you watching, you can see the book here. And so the grasp method, the grasp approach, G is the beginning, gratitude. What comes next?
Yeah, so gratitude is that foundational layer. And how I like to think about it is that you can't build a building, right? If we look at construction, you can't put up the walls without laying the foundation. Again, it's that real rewiring to set you up for success. So gratitude is first. That helps lay that foundation, right? If we're thinking of an image of constructing a building. After that is R, GR. And R is responsibility. It's a personal responsibility, it's an ownership. So once you've rewired your brain, once you've developed a relationship with gratitude, now comes the personal responsibility of I'm not going to be a victim, I'm going to be a victor. I'm not going to let this dictate my next step, whatever it is. And it's an ownership, which is so key and so crucial because it doesn't stop with gratitude. You also have to take ownership of your life. You have to take ownership of your business. You have to take ownership of your leadership, your communication, anything in life, right? And if we don't have that self leadership, again, we can't lead a team of many before we lead a team of one. If we don't have that self leadership, that responsibility, it's all for naught. And we're going to revert back to our old ways and we're never going to continually progress. So, responsibility is absolutely a crucial step. And then after that is action, GRA, action. You got to take action. There's a really good quote in one of my favorite books called The Science of Getting Rich, published in 1910. And it says an ounce of doing is worth more than a pound of theorizing. Because we can think about things all day long.
That's
But
sorry, did you just say that was
right?
from a book from 1910?
It's my favorite book, yes. Science of Getting
Wow.
Rich. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's one of those
Wow.
like endless truth books.
Yeah, but how amazing is that? And that recognition over 100 years ago, the importance of action. So it's
Yeah.
not just theory, you were saying, it's not just an idea or something you wish to do or desire, it's turned into something which is reality.
Yeah,
And what could action look like? What could this stage look like for somebody who's on that journey?
absolutely. And again, going back to the construction analogy, right? If we don't have action, you're building a castle made on sand. A quick wave will crash it and it'll be gone. So the action helps continue to put up that scaffolding, the walls, the ideas. It's bringing those ideas into fruition, to reality, so that you actually have something that holds, that sticks around. And when we're talking about a sustainable level of confidence, right? It doesn't have to look like leaps, bounds, and marathons. You don't have to climb Mount Everest. I'm not saying that. But what it does look like is compounded over time, small actions. So most of us, your audience are high performers. They've probably either heard or applied the compound method. It's just getting 1% better every day. 1% better every day could look something as small as instead of sitting on at my desk, I'm going to walk on a treadmill for 30 minutes. Instead of drinking a soda, I'm going to replace it with water. Instead of thinking a negative thought or saying a negative thought or thinking something negatively about someone, I'm going to find one positive thing that I love about them or that I love about myself. It's very small, compounded actions, but over time, you start to become a different person. And the amazing thing about small compounded action, just like interest piling up in your bank, if you improve yourself 1% every day over 365 days, that's about a 37x improvement. You won't be recognizable. Not possible. You will look like a different person. You'll show up as a different person. People will perceive you differently. They'll see you as a competent, confident person, a leader, because you're exuding the confidence and the attributes of leadership. So when you combine this with gratitude and that personal responsibility, the action continues that flywheel effect that doesn't end.
Fantastic. And I love the way that you also frame this as it's not grand gestures or huge actions, because I think sometimes people feel when it comes to confidence, they have to suddenly turn everything around. They have to suddenly throw themselves out of their comfort zone. But clearly, it's also about those small actions and habits. So, gratitude, responsibility, action. What comes next then?
Sight. And people say, what does that mean? Right? Well, there's a quote that I kind of live by, and it's by Marian Wright Edelman, and she says, "You can't be what you can't see." So, in order for you to become the best version of yourself, the leader that you imagine yourself to be, the highly successful entrepreneur or business owner or whatever, you have to see it to believe it. And the amazing thing is, we talked about neuroscience, visualization is very much tied into neuroscience as well. There's studies coming out now where there's, a group of people who are working out and then a control group of people who aren't working out, but imagine they're working out. They imagine their muscles lifting. So I need to try this at the gym, maybe. Well, I'll report back to your audience, right? The group that is not working out but imagines themselves doing a workout has muscle growth.
No. Wow. That is amazing.
Their muscles actually grow. So the power of the mind is real. And it's that visualization, it's that seeing is believing. Because so many people, again, they think that's for somebody else. Must be nice to have. I wish I could get there. Well, if you start visualizing yourself as that person that you want to become, you'll get there that much quicker. And if you pair that with gratitude and responsibility and then action, that small compounded action over time, again, we just discussed that 1% every day, 37x improvement over the course of a year, you won't be recognizable. You will be a
Mhm.
different person. You will be that person you start seeing and start to believe it and start becoming.
Yeah. And so sight is really about visualizing yourself as that person, recognizing it's for you. Is it also, I'm just curious, because is it also about surrounding yourself with the right role models or being able to be with people that you see are perhaps achieving that already? Is that part of this?
Absolutely. The environment is huge. We can't grow in soil that's toxic. If you think about a seed, right? And we're all seeds of infinite potential. Let's take two apple seeds. You have one apple seed and we discard it. We haphazardly throw it and it falls into the road. It may get lucky. It may find a crack and take root, but we can all agree It's kind of dangerous territory for the seed. It's probably going to get run over and trampled on, and it's definitely not going to flourish. It's not going to thrive because the environment is dangerous. But if we take that same seed and we plant it in fertile ground where the environment is friendly, the seed has the ability to become the tree that it's designed to be because it has the blueprint already in it. The problem is not the seed, the problem is the environment we put the seed in. And we're the same way. So it's really hard to thrive in environments that don't suit growth. So, absolutely, having the right friends, mentors, relationships, colleagues around you that support you can take that person and really develop their potential into who they ultimately can be. And really, that environment is so crucial because we're the average of the, top 5 people we surround ourselves with the most. And I think that is more important than we give it weight, honestly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that sort of build on site because for me, I know it for it to be true for myself. It's true for the people that I help and work with when they're surrounded by people who influence them in the best and most positive way, inspire them. They're in environments where that energize them. That creates a very different feeling of confidence, a very different feeling of possibility and potential. Equally, I've seen it the other way around, where the environments, the people are draining people, literally. So S, I absolutely buy into. Very, very important part of this, the site. And then what comes finally? The P.
Purpose.
Mm.
I believe, just like we talked about with the seed has the blueprint already within it. But the blueprint can't be realized, right, to its full potential, which is its purpose, if the other conditions aren't met. So, purpose is an interesting thing because I do believe that we all have a purpose, a reason for being here. And there's a saying, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. You don't have to wonder, do I have a purpose? Is it something existential? Is it something that is found with outside of myself? Is it something that I have to purchase or is it something that I have to, it's already within you. It's that blueprint. And you can find it by leaning into things that you're really naturally good at. Maybe it's your natural skills, yeah, natural abilities. It's an interesting thing though, because sometimes we're so close to our purpose that we don't see it ourselves. And I've ran into this plenty with myself and with others. It could be a natural gift that you have that other people say, "How do you do that? That's incredible. I wish I was good at that. You have such a gift." And if you start picking up on sometimes what other people are saying about you, that you, again, just because it's so natural and native to you, you don't even see it because you're so close to it, but you start picking up on those things. There's, and it doesn't have to necessarily be one grand thing. It's just leaning in and listening on what your natural gifts are, what your natural strengths are, not following the crowd, not doing what everybody else is doing. Um, and, I believe that the road of purpose, while we all have one, the road of purpose is a very narrow road. It's
Mm.
a road that there's no competition on. And part of that is just your authenticity. When you are truly authentic to you, there is no competition. There is no room for comparison. And, I don't put purpose as my first step because I feel like you have to go through a journey of clarity before you get there and understand what that is and looks like for you. But it's always going to be there. It's a road you can come back on at any point in time to get to your destination. But first, you have to go through some personal development aspects. Again, developing the gratitude, rewiring your brain, learning self-leadership, ownership mentality, learning actionable habits so that you can produce great outcomes, learning the visualization process of who you want to become. And then as you go through this journey, the clarity of purpose becomes much more apparent.
Well, I was going to ask you that, is this a sequential journey? So do you always start from gratitude and then move through the different sections? Or is it designed that you come into where you're at?
It's funny. Um, I always recommend, regardless of who it is, to start with gratitude because we have to rewire our brains. And I think there is so much information about gratitude out there, but it's rarely taught for ourselves. We're taught to
Mm.
have gratitude for everything else. Have gratitude for things in your life. But what if you could have gratitude for self first? And then everything else kind of falls afterwards. And it's funny, I had an interesting conversation. I just came back from international travel last night with someone, and she was asking me about gratitude. And I told her the 3 steps: gratitude for the person that you were, gratitude for the person that you are, and gratitude for the person you are becoming. Because she didn't understand the relationship of gratitude and confidence either. And she said, that's different from what everybody else is selling. And I said, it's interesting you say that because I'm not selling anything. And it was like a complete wall went down. And she said, what you just said is truth. You're not selling anything. And I've never heard it been presented that way. And I said, I have nothing to gain, right, from this. What I have to gain is that you just understand that gratitude isn't for everything else outside of yourself. It starts with you. So I recommend the GRASP method, regardless of where you think you are on that spectrum. Just try it in order, sequentially, and you can, be a fan of one area and really stick on that, and then go to the next one and then kind of go through the steps. But there's some days that, even though I've gone through the GRASP method quite often, there are some days that it's more of a sight day. I need to work on my visualization. There's other days when I feel like I'm just being negative, so I need to work on my gratitude. There's other days when I'm not taking ownership and personal responsibility, and I need to work on the R, the responsibility. There's other days where I feel like, which direction am I going? And I need to work on the North Star, the purpose. So I think it's best to start in sequential order. And then once you go through the 5 steps, at your own pace, then you can always return to any step at any point in time.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that is really kind of wise advice because it gives you that, I suppose, that scope to experience it fully end to end, but then come back to what is most useful in the moment. I love this methodology. I think it's really, in some ways, simple to remember, but fantastic in terms of obviously the commitment, the work to develop the confidence. And so, that version of confidence, does that look the same to everyone, or are there different versions of confidence?
That's an interesting question. I think confidence, it depends on your visualization. It depends on your goal of what you see yourself doing, right? So a lot of people that I work with, they're high performing leaders. They're people just like you who are thought leaders. They're writing books, they're speaking on TEDx stages, they're developing their businesses. For a lot of people, when I start working with them, I just want the confidence to share my story. Or I want the confidence to, can I even do this? They say. Is this even something a girl like me or a guy like me can do? To, okay, when's my next one?
Oh,
And
your
I've
next question.
seen, yeah, I've seen that, right? I've seen that go from people say, is TEDx even for me? Is it something I can even do? To, okay, I'm ready for the next one and the next one And the next one, what's the next challenge? So it's interesting, right? Because I think confidence, we all have a baseline level, but it's the sky's the limit. I've seen people really achieve some incredible things. I have one of my dear clients. She was at her professional rock bottom when we met, and she was struggling. She was struggling with negative mindset, with kind of like that professional rock bottom. After just a few months, she landed a TEDx talk. A few months after that, landed a book deal. A few months after that, got a huge promotion. She's chief of staff at a Fortune 100 company. Anything is possible. And you can start from that rock bottom point to even just a year later, completely 180 because you've compounded the interest over time and taken action every day.
Fantastic. I love that. And I love that idea that it doesn't just stop at the first goal, it keeps going. And in fact, it can accelerate towards even bigger goals, even more ambitious visions for what you want to achieve. So this is, I mean, this is incredibly exciting. And clearly this is part of the work that you do. You mentioned right at the start of today that you're working on your next book. I don't know if is it at a stage where you can share more about. I know you've talked about confidence in one of your books, the grasp approach. I know one of your books is about how to do a TED talk, how to get a TED talk. What's this next book about, if you can share?
Sure, yeah. It's called From Calling to Confidence. It's a faith-based book to help leaders step into their calling. I will be highlighting the GRASP method again in this book, but from a slightly different lens. And I think what's interesting about this next book, it's even deeper, way deeper. This will be very exciting for me to complete and write. And as I write the book, I'm just, I get in that flow state. I think 2 weeks ago I wrote 10,000 words in a weekend. I just get excited and just can't
Wow.
stop writing. You know how it is. But it's going to be a very deep book, very spiritual, to help people again realize that they have that infinite potential and that you're created for purpose, on purpose. Do something big with your life. Do whatever your heart is calling you to. And when you do that, when you step into your really God-given identity and confidence, you become unstoppable. There's no force in this planet that can stop you, that can stop a really purpose-driven person who refuses to give up.
Wow. That is super powerful and how exciting to see the next book coming. Do you have any ideas when that might be?
I'm shooting for summer of 2026. So, first step
Okay.
is publisher, finding the publisher, getting all that ironed out, and securing a publishing deal. And then after that, it's going to be off to the races.
Fantastic. Well, you heard it here first. Look out for that book in 2026. But this is, I mean, this has been a really powerful conversation, Tara. And, I've really deeply enjoyed understanding better your grasp framework, how you frame and think about confidence, and also how you see it play out in reality. I mean, your work is incredibly exciting, and some of the results you're getting with your clients sounds amazing. Um, for those people who kind of want to find out more about what you do, how you do it, follow you, where are all the best places to do that?
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere at Tara LaFon Gooch. I'm on LinkedIn the most out of everything, Instagram, YouTube as well, Facebook. And you can look me up on my website, taralafongooch.com. My company's website is bestbranding.solutions as well.
Amazing. And we'll include, all, of course, all of those links in the show notes. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me here today. Is there any sort of final thoughts or final words you'd like to share as we close up today?
Absolutely. I believe confidence is your birthright. It's not for other people, it's for you. And if you believe that this is something you can achieve, you're already halfway there. So that's my parting words of wisdom for anybody who is searching for confidence. And, you know, again, I think we're, as a society in general, we're searching for success. But success is the byproduct of confidence. You first have to have confidence to really, truly become successful. So instead of searching and striving for the byproduct, go to the source. And that's when you'll get the sustained level of confidence for the rest of your life. And it's your birthright to do so.
Amazing. Well, very powerful words. Thank you so much, Tara. Really appreciate you joining me here today. We'll, of course, share all of your links and encourage people to connect with you. But in the meantime, thank you for being here. And thank you for everyone joining today and listening and watching the show.